on the Fringe with RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. You know, it's funny, these two used to seem to get along, right? Here's a great picture, the two doing a little bumpy bump. Yeah, hey now, I'm best friends with you. But for right now, it seems like these two couldn't get along to save anything, right? They can't get along to save their best friends, right? Their best friends' lives, the people that are under their constituency, the people that are under their control. I mean, here's another picture of her whispering in his ear, probably sweet nothings, I'm sure. And she's touching him with her own hand. But not anymore. These two, right now, are blaming each other for everything. We're going to get into that. I also want to talk about the big thing right now, and everyone's always said this. I think everybody should know this. If you don't already, hey, guess what? Follow the money, right? That's always the adage. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. Epstein's been a big part of that, right? But from a different standpoint, from a country standpoint, following the money is actually going to take us in a very interesting direction right now. Now, I want to talk about U.S. debt to GDP, gross domestic product, right? This is basically the amount of money after taxes and all this other stuff. Well, gross, actually, before taxes. All the stuff that the United States, all the money, the revenue that the United States has grossed, has made as a country, right? Like everybody's income added up and all that stuff, right? And then it compares debt to that number. That is an actual astronomical kind of concept if you think about it. First off, if you think about how much money we as a country make, it's insane. Two, if you think about the percentage of debt this year that we're probably going to show, well, if you have no guesses, I'm going to give you some extra help. And then you can think about it for a second and go, oh boy. Yeah, because that's basically what's going to happen. So back in 1865, we had this little pesky thing called the U.S. Civil War, which it's odd. It seems like we're having something very similar right now, almost 200 years later. Not quite, but whatever. Right? So total GDP at that point got really high. It got up to 32%, but it spiked. Oh, yeah, because we had a war. And then over here, World War I, we spiked again. This time we spiked up to around, 35%, 35.5%. And then, of course, pesky World War II. You saw that coming, I bet. Yeah, but we had 121%. We broke 100%, well, for the first time in American history. Now, what's funny is if you go here and you just start looking at the fact of how the world's worked and how things have happened. Now, when we get to 2001 September, you'll notice instead of this downward trend that we almost started, we start going back up and up and up. And then really up. So right around here, in 2007, right before the crash, right? All of a sudden, our GDP starts going from 60%, or the debt to ratio, I should say, up to very quickly, I should say, within a matter of a few years. Oddly, Obama was president. We broke 100% again for the first time in history since way back here, right? So the first time in history, we broke 100%. And there we have stayed since. Now, these numbers go up to basically the end of 2019, not basically, exactly. And we hit 107.71% at the end of last year. We've got right now McConnell and Pelosi basically trying to hold the country hostage over a lot of money. Republicans are suggesting $1 trillion. The Democrats are suggesting $3 trillion. And for a lot of interesting things. We're going to try to get into some of that. First off, one of the things they call out for trillionaires. So Pelosi wants to fund some of her trillionaire friends in Manhattan, oddly. Also, the states. Wants to help bail out the states. All these states that have financial issues prior to COVID. She wants to give them gobs of money, namely California, New York, and you can guess the rest of the ones that are going to fall in line with that. And you can also assume the states that probably didn't have Democrat-run governments for many, many, many years, well, those Republican-y type states, well, oddly, their budgets are fine. They don't need money, interestingly. Probably coincidence, I'm sure. Again, follow the money, right? Those who want to spend all the money that's not theirs and tell who should be able to spend it, even though you worked really hard for it. They don't want you to decide what you can do with it. No. They're going to tell you what you can do with your money. Well, no, I take that back. They're going to take the money from you and then spend it how they will. So as of the end of last year, prior to COVID really kicking in at all, right? Because that was January late, then February, and then March was when the shutdown, right? Like, think about it. We've done trillions of dollars, and we've got another $3 trillion of debt rallied up, ready to go. And the Republicans are like, whoa, back the truck up. Beep, beep, beep. We got way the F too much debt already. Come on, guys, be a little more responsible. We've got to be careful who we give money to. Do we want to pay more money for people to stay at home than for people to want to actually go out and start working again? I mean, where's the incentive to work? That's that basic income that they wanted to try to give everybody. Again, follow the money. The Democrats are trying to push their agenda. They want to give everybody free money to stay home, but they could go out and make more if they wanted, but you'd have to make more than a couple bucks an hour over minimum wage to be able to do that. And so much of the population makes under that it's very easy for them to talk all of them from not wanting to go back to work. If nobody goes back to work and even businesses try to open, who's going to fill those roles, right? Nobody can do those jobs. No one's doing those jobs, even if it's McDonald's. But if that person at the window's not there to collect my money when I go to drive through and get my McDonald's coffee and my little Egg McMuffin, well, if that's the case, then how am I going to get my food? What's the point of the place being open? So again, they're trying to keep the economy shut down. It's not playing out well for them. Now, it's interesting, again, if you just look at it, it's like over here, it's kind of an easier way. This is year by year. You can see that we broke 100% and pretty much have just kept spending all this money. And again, this next coming year, 2020, is going to be friggin' off this chart. It's going to be like way the hell up here, probably higher than that. 200%. Might be the first time ever in the history that we break 200%. Again, they're going to blame Trump for that, but hey, this is what's going on right now. So let's talk about what Pelosi's been basically selling as her mojo right now. Again, follow the money. It's interesting right now that these people are squabbling over money for government, to pay big government, states, money for trillionaires in Manhattan, specifically Democrat donors, and they're going to pay people more money to stay at home. So that's what they're fighting for, is basically something that can, well, benefit their rich friends and pretty much continue to hurt the economy. So here's what they're holding out for. Let's check this out.
Madam Speaker, what's next in terms of the talks? I mean, if there is this great chasm between
Yes.
Where Democrats are and where the White House is, where do we go from here?
Well, let's just say this. You see some of the statements of the Republicans saying they're glad there's no agreement because they don't want to spend one more penny on this. And that's maybe 25 of the Republican senators. And what the president did with his executive orders, I correct one of your distinguished colleague who said Democrats are saying it's unconstitutional slop. That was a Republican senator who said that. So we are unified, House and Senate Democrats, for the children, for the people. And they are disorganized, in disarray, and do not believe in governance or science. So we have to come to some conclusion. We told them we'll go down $1 trillion if you go up $1 trillion for the children. Again, let's meet in the middle. We've said all of that, but until they're ready to do that, it's no use sitting in a room and let them tell us that states should go bankrupt. The fiscal soundness of our states is essential to the strength of our economy. Actually, though, in our view, it's also about honoring our heroes, healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, transportation, sanitation, food supplier workers who are paid by the state. They will be losing their jobs unless we respect and honor our heroes by allocating resources to cover the expenses of the coronavirus that states and localities have incurred, as well as to recognize the revenue they have lost because of this and the fact that they're going to have to fire millions of people, and that goes on to unemployment insurance. So what are you saving? Everybody said, I mean, you look at the chairman of the Fed and economists, they say, pay now or pay more later. This is forgetting compassion or the children, any of that. In terms of the economy, if we do not infuse more into the economy, to fighting this virus so that we can open up our economy, we can send our children to school safely and the rest. This is only going to get worse. So there's a big difference, and it doesn't help when people say, how come you can't resolve your differences? It's a chasm, because they do not share our values, they don't believe in science, they don't believe in governance. But as a practical matter, they're going to have to come to the table.
It's so interesting to me how they can just very easily, in the same sentence, just blame everybody else, which of course is kind of how their mojo works. But you also notice how they've got to constantly choose their words very carefully as they talk. It's really hard to come at things from where they're at, from their standpoint, to be looking at actual facts and be able to talk down those facts into some other direction so you can then blame it on something else, or try to make a bad thing sound good. Just a ridiculous example, but kind of works for the point. You've got like a burning courthouse, right? And you point this image to someone like a Nancy Pelosi and be like, all right, so talk to me about this burning courthouse. And she's like, well, you know, fires for a lot of people. It's been cold lately at night. And, you know, we've got a lot of homeless people that have noticed a lot of cold lately. And have you noticed how when we've got cold people, one of the best things for that is fire. So obviously having the extra fire in the area has been helping the homeless people of the vicinity, and thusly this is a good thing. Again, they try to just walk down these paths of crazy. We're talking about gobs of money, and they turn around and say, yeah, it's gonna be this hero fund. It's gonna be all about the, right? They name it all this stuff to get, well, why wouldn't you want to support a hero fund? Because it's an extra $2 trillion to people that shouldn't get money. That's why. That has nothing to do with the fact that these first frontline workers need money, of course. That's why Trump did the executive orders that she's poo-pooed. But, you know, it's the way the game is played. Now, we've got some talks, of course. We've got Fox News. We've got to throw a little of the other angle on it, get some of McConnell's thoughts. And he had some very good ones. They did a nice little snippet here. I think they did it justice, so let's check this out.
Stimulus talks stalled on Capitol Hill this morning. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell now urging the White House and Democratic leaders to restart negotiations. Chad Pergram is live for us on Capitol Hill. And Chad, why isn't there more urgency to get something done here?
Well, the main reason right now is that there's no bill that can pass and become law. And until that changes, until that vote matrix starts to break loose on both the House and Senate sides, nothing is going to change here on Capitol Hill. They are in a cryogenic freeze, a stasis. And that's why there are recriminations now on both sides of the aisle. Let's start with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell.
But if Democrats are playing hardball, their opponents aren't us Republicans. Not really. They're playing hardball against kids, workers, and vulnerable Americans who need help. They're playing hardball against our medical system.
And Democrats right now are arguing that these executive orders are unworkable.
Rather than trying to break the logjam, as a true presidential leader should, President Trump sits on the sidelines and just issued a bunch of weak and unworkable executive orders.
This is why members of Congress prefer to legislate rather than deferring to the executive branch. Few states can provide the $100 match to go along with the $300 in jobless aid sought by the president. And on the suspension of the payroll tax, there's worry how much good that will do. The tax isn't collected if people aren't on a payroll, so that may not stimulate the economy. There's concern that failing to collect the payroll tax jeopardizes the programs it funds, Medicare and Social Security. The Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, rejects that.
The president would like to do a payroll tax cut, so he'll go back to Congress when he wins the election and ask Congress to have this money forgiven and have the Social Security Trust Fund fully topped up so that in no way does this impact Social Security.
Now, no talks are scheduled right now. There's probably not going to be any talks anytime soon just because they don't have the votes. They have not met since last Friday, Trace.
And Chad, what about rank and file members? Are they beginning to worry about there not being a bill?
Absolutely. They're starting to get anxious, especially those in swing states and districts, both sides of the aisle. If they start to get nervous, they talk to their constituents back home. They hear from cafe owners and bar owners say, look, we can only go to 30% capacity. That could start to change if they get in the ear of the leaders and say, look, we have to do something. That might be the tactic here. It was always thought that phase 5 of these coronavirus negotiations would be the toughest, and certainly that has proven to be the case thus far. Trace?
Chad Pergram, live for us on Capitol Hill. Chad, thank you.
That was always a big part of this, by the way, was to, of course, to get everybody to stop getting all this free money, to get the government to stop getting all this free money, to force the governments, the states, to open up their individual states, to get their economies back on track, rather than just putting their hands out and saying, no, feed me, and faking all these numbers and thinking that everybody was going to go along with that. Trump's basically said, no, I'm not going along with that. And you can point science all you want. I've got some other science. They're now reporting the hospital numbers directly to me, and I'm already starting to see some of the differences. There's a lot of things that are being called out right now. Trump's not playing the game. Now, of course, McConnell did the same thing that Pelosi did. You know, they're going after children and not trying to help anybody. Point is, right now, frankly, is both sides are not really able to come to an agreement. And that's how extremely divided. It's not the divide in the sense of, like, I don't like you, you don't like me. It's the divide in the sense of that one side wants to control everything we think, say, do, everything we manufacture, every place we're allowed to go, how much gas you're allowed to use, how much energy you're allowed to use. They want to mandate every aspect of your life. And then there's this other side that's like, hey, don't hurt me, I won't hurt you. Let's have some freedom. Let's work towards a better world. Let's see if we can solve some of these problems. Yeah, global warming seems like maybe it's something, but let's come up with some better energy ideas. Let's come up with some better ways to do this, rather than your way of collapsing everything, controlling everything, taking every bit of money. No, that's not going to work at all. So we're at this major impasse right now. And Trump's basically like, you know what, screw you guys. I'm going to take care of this the way I can and the way you guys have given me permission. Congress voted all these powers to the president. These executive orders aren't something that Trump just said, all right, I'm going to make up some executive orders today. No, he's got the right to do this. Now, they're going to fight this in the Supreme Court, whatever. And Mnuchin called it out very brilliantly. And I said it recently, I think in the video yesterday or the day before, that Trump did that executive order as blackmail to the deep state. And that's exactly what he did. And it's still playing out right now. It's like, no, once everything's said and done, we'll revoke that whole executive order and Congress can give the money back to Social Security. Everything will be great. We got it covered. Don't you worry about this. And what he's basically saying is, you either start playing along with us and start understanding that this is happening regardless if you're going to fight it or not, or forget it. And we'll stalemate you. And for the first time, it's kind of neat to see somebody put their foot down against all the crap that's going on against us. So coronavirus stimulus, of course, Pelosi, McConnell blaming one another. Yeah, whatever. Trump's taking care of business, making stuff happen, at least keeping us afloat, at least taking care of the important stuff. Gavin Newsom, we've got him talking about his state. Again, this is what they're going to push in the press. Remember, Main Street media. They're going to be pushing all this. Oh my God, we're dying. People are starving, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's going to be the states that have been most mismanaged. It's going to be the states that are most heavily deep blue. It's going to be those states that seem to be in the largest amount of trouble, oddly, and we're hoping to get some bailout money, and they're not going to. And Pelosi and McConnell are $2 trillion apart. Pelosi said, you come up $1 trillion, I'll come down $1 trillion. And McConnell's like, yeah, no, because your $1 trillion, you want to give it to crazy places. And that's not okay. This is all about the American people. This is not about super elite wealthy people. This is not about the states that have been poorly managed. This is not about paying more people to stay at home so it's more attractive to stay home and not work than it is to actually go out and work. Now, should we raise wages and all that? Yes, let's keep working on that. But getting the government, just having them give you money? No, that's not how you do this. You don't make it more wealthy or lucrative for yourself to stay at home and not do anything than to go out and try to get a job. So let's try to keep these things in mind, but ultimately try to keep this in mind when you're seeing the stories surrounding you and people keep presenting all this, oh my God, these emotional arguments. Oh, he's trying to hurt the children. All of them. No, just look at the money. Look at how much money we're talking about. Look at how much freaking debt we're in. You don't just keep printing money. A lot of people are like, it's free money. No, it's not. No, that's called debt. U.S. debt versus GDP. Every dollar we produce is a debt. Every dollar that we give out, these trillions of stimulus dollars, is trillions of debt. The GDP is not going up. In fact, the GDP this year has been very low. Trump was surprised. I think the third quarter was coming up as it was, and we're hoping for a really strong fourth quarter, obviously. But the GDP not only went significantly down, debt went significantly up. This will likely be the first year in history we break 200%, and we're probably going to. This is what you need to pay attention to. The money is where it's all at. There's a lot of word that this transition of an economy and or possibly a bankruptcy of the United States government. I mean, seriously, think of who would be better to bring in than Trump for a bankruptcy. The dude's gone through it in large corporations. Here's an example. He's got a good charisma. People like him. He's pretty clean, it seems, because they sure as heck did throw everything at him. And here we are going through this transition, potential bankruptcy, whatever's going on in the world right now. Something major is changing. And the world from the future of right now will never be like it was in the past. Never. Either the deep state's totally gone and we're moving in this new direction, or who knows, all the lights turn out and just, who knows. But the world will never be the same, forever. It's already reached a tipping point for sure. And I think really as we all awaken, I think it's pretty obvious the direction we're heading. The growing pains are going to be tough, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And again, as I say frequently, remember to help each other. People are waking up around us, man. Be aware of that. Be aware of the fact that who might have been a jerkhole yesterday to you, tomorrow might actually be like asking you like, hey, you brought something up the other day. And, maybe you just kind of misunderstood him the other day or misread him. But maybe he's actually a little more awakened than you might realize. So again, let's be open to other people. Because, again, we're doing this together. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle.